Hi everyone, it's Jay here, and today I'm going to review some of the manga and manhwa I read last month in March. I read 12 volumes, which is less than last month, so I am a bit disappointed, but I had less time to read due to us being short-staffed at work. By the time I finished work, it was bedtime, and I barely read for 10 minutes before falling asleep, so I was really tired. I still managed to read every day though, just not as much as normal. Some of the volumes I read were in continuation from series I had started previously, but I also started 3 new series in March. So, in no particular order, let's start with Business Proposal Volume 4. This one had such an emotional opening. Harry's parents have had an accident, and so Teemu kind of takes over to help her and her family. It is super sweet, and he only steps in when it becomes clear she's feeling overwhelmed with the situation and struggling to make decisions. And him helping out at the restaurant is absolutely golden. It is absolutely perfect. I love those scenes because we get to see a different side to him. Now, throughout the series, we know that Harry has had a crush on her friend Minwoo for years, and he has always been oblivious to it, constantly friend-zoning her. Well, they have a conversation in this volume, and wow, I don't want to ruin it, but you definitely need to read it. So I really enjoyed this volume overall. The air has finally been cleared between Harry and Teemu, although they still haven't sorted out their feelings. Things are progressing, lots of plot lines have been set up, and so I'm looking forward to future volumes. I started a new series called The Villainess Turns the Hourglass, and I read volumes 1 and 2. We meet a woman called Arya who is about to be beheaded for how cruel she's been to her sister and others. Even she kind of agrees, although she doesn't know how it escalated to that point. Just before she's killed, her sister Miel tells her that she manipulated everything, pushing Arya behind the scenes to be the worst of herself. As Arya is being killed, she wishes she could go back in time, and ta-da! She wakes up as her 14-year-old self and is determined to get revenge on Miel. The art is good, not as good as Villains Are Destined to Die, but still good, and it has a strong opening. The only thing I want to say is I'm really disappointed in the cover of book 2. This is a beautiful cover. Lots of detail, her hair's lovely, and this one just kind of falls flat. Barely looks like the same character, and I was very disappointed in the level of detail. So you can see clearly how different the art is. But never mind. So I have mixed feelings about this series, if I'm being honest. At first, I thought, I'm going to really enjoy Arya getting her revenge and making Miel look horrible. But Arya is so good at being manipulative that at times I feel really sorry for Miel, especially when she seemingly loses her father's affections. But then I'm reminded of how horrible she is, and I'm back to supporting Arya. I also really dislike her father. He constantly chooses Miel over Arya, lying to make Miel look good, and I hate that. I think my main issue with Arya is how she thinks of the people around her, whom she solely treats as pawns in her own game. For example, Miss Sarah has been nothing but nice to her, and as far as I know, hadn't done anything horrible to her in her previous life. But despite this, Arya keeps thinking awful things about Miss Sarah, thinking some very unkind things, and I was a bit confused at the start of volume 2 as well, where Arya seems to have completely changed her mind, sees Miss Sarah as a pillar of support, and someone she actually looks forward to seeing. Where did that come from? There was no thought process that led to Arya realising that this is a friend, someone she can rely on, or that she should actually try and enjoy some of her new life with her, this friendship mentorship that she has. But no, instead she randomly changes her feelings, then a few pages later is back to inwardly mocking Miss Sarah and taking advantage of her kindness. I also feel really sorry for Lord Oscar. Their interactions just seem pitiful. Although the Crown Prince thinking he was sending gifts to Arya but actually sending them to Miel was very funny. I enjoyed that immensely. It also introduced a more political plotline, which, if done well, is going to be really interesting. Anyway, I have spoken enough about these volumes. I really enjoyed the story and I think it has a lot of potential. I'm just struggling with the thoughts and sometimes the actions of Arya. But having spoken to Pan Paja about her, I think I need to change my view of her and see her as more of a villain. I read The Dangerous Convenience Store, Volume 2, and this follows a gangster called Gunwoo, who in this volume clearly is smitten with Yoojun, a college student working at a convenience store, which is where the two met. This series has some very funny moments in it. This one has a scene involving lipstick and Gunwoo's reaction is priceless. I won't say more because of spoilers. There's some closure here on Yoojun's previous crush, and then there's a car scene. It goes on for quite a while. One of the great things about these panels in this scene was the artwork, showing how the light falls across them. The colour was done really well here. But if you've read the volume, let me know what you thought about this scene, because there were a lot of no's and stops being said, but they were not listened to at all, which, not great, and made me dislike the scene if I'm being honest. But at the end of the volume, Gunwoo really has a think about his feelings and clearly states them, giving Yoojun options. I really like that bit. It was a mature approach that I feel is sometimes lacking in manga and manhwa. There's also a kind of extra chapter where we see the story from Gunwoo's perspective, and it has some really sweet extra moments in it. Whilst I didn't enjoy this volume as much as the first, I'm still going to buy volume 3 because I want to know where these two end up. I also continued reading Kaiju No. 8 in March. I read volumes 5, 6 and 7 and I really enjoyed them all. For those who don't know, it's set in a world where monsters, kaiju, pop up and attack humans, so Japan has a defense force which fights off the kaiju, and Kafka winds up being able to turn into a kaiju and he wants to use his new powers for good. But in this one, his fear of hurting humans around him affects his ability to control his kaiju powers, an issue which strikes at the most inopportune moment. There are some great battles in these volumes and I like the way Kikoru and Kafka interact. So she's another person in the defense force and she really supports him in her own confident way and he thrives under her cool-headedness. I have to say there are some really cool panels in these volumes of the defense force divisions just standing there looking super cool. The double page we get of Division 1 and 3 having a standoff is brilliant. I love the rivalry between the two and I love the direction this manga is going in. More and more characters are being introduced, they're bringing with them different plot lines. I think these plot lines are going to be epic. And obviously you've got problems arising for Kafka, so I can't wait to keep reading this series. I started a series called The Abandoned Empress and I really enjoyed it. It's another one where the MC gets a second chance at their life, but it's done really well, in my opinion anyway. Please remember that I am fairly new to this trope, so I'm enjoying everything I'm reading at the moment. So our main character is Aristia, and there's a prophecy that the Crown Prince, Emperor Villainess, is going to marry a specific girl. So Aristia spends her whole life being told that she's the girl from the prophecy. And so she's educated in order to prepare herself for this. But one day a girl called June appears suddenly from another world, and it's discovered that this new girl is supposed to be Empress, not Aristia. And the first third or half of the book goes through this part of her life, and I have to say it's quite sad because she kind of gets pushed to the side and you can understand why all the people involved are upset. But Villainess, the Emperor, comes across as an absolutely horrible person. I won't give anything away, but the shoe scene made my blood boil. So when she finally wakes up as her younger self, before the whole prophecy thing takes root, you're really there to support her. I find her character so much more likeable than Arya from the Villainess Turns the Hourglass, but maybe it's not fair to compare them. Anyway, Aristia gets to change her future life, And I love her interactions between her father and his knights, who are all very protective of her, because she now acts in a much more carefree attitude, and knowing what the future has held, has much more affection for her father. It was a great opening to the series, and it left me with a lot of questions, such as why Revelis hates Aristia, what happened between them when they were younger that she cannot remember. I'm extremely excited to see where this goes, because it looks like she's going to build a loyal group of people around her by being a nice and caring person, obviously with some level of awareness of politics from a previous life, and I cannot wait to read more. The last series I'm going to talk about is Mariati. Now, I am from the UK, so I do like the Sherlock Holmes stories, so when I heard about this series, I knew I had to get it, and it does not disappoint. It follows William Moriarty from when he's a child to when he becomes an adult, and has a small group with him, and their aim is to rid the world of evil, particularly the evil nobility who face no consequences because of who they are, and the group wants to fight against the injustices the class system brings to people. I love this, and the story really gets you on side by showcasing the worst of the worst people. Nobility who don't care about killing the working class, nobility who torture children for fun, all that kind of stuff. It's very black and white in terms of good versus bad, so it'll be interesting to see whether it takes Moriarty down a more morally grey path in the future. And by volume 2, you really get a feel for the overarching storyline that is going to link these volumes together with the more episodic plot lines within each volume. We get to meet Sherlock in this volume as well, which is both fun, and it makes me wonder if this is going to be a hard read in the future, because I've grown up with Sherlock being the good guy, and I don't want him to shut down Moriarty in this series, because at the moment Moriarty is awesome. I really like his character and his willingness to make a change in the world despite him being in the higher class. Throughout the volumes, the art is very good. I like how the faces are drawn, and after reading volume 4, I'm really excited to see where this goes. There are 14 volumes out now, with the 15th volume coming out in April. So I may slow down my reading of this series because I don't want to forget what happens between the volumes, as there are quite a few characters and I'm worried that I might forget some of them. So these are all the volumes I read in March. I'm going to read more in April because I have some time off at work, and if I can't read during my holidays, when can I? Let me know what you read last month. If you've got any recommendations, please let me know in the comments below. Happy reading, everyone. Bye!